Alright, so since we've went over the basics on how this works in the previous page, I'm just going to go through this a little bit more quickly. So we have 4m to the 3 in the numerator. In the denominator we have 2m to the 3 plus 8m squared. The numerator has one term, so I'm going to leave him alone. The denominator has 2, so we're looking at the 2 and the 8. And I'm going to pull out the 2. Right? 2 is the greatest common factor. And then I look at the variables, and I have 3m's over here, and I have 2m's over here. So I can pull out m squared, or 2m's. And then now I'm looking and saying, okay, what times 2m squared is equal to 2m to the 3? And that's going to equal to m. And then over here, it's also going to be a 4. We can double check by distributing and checking if they're equal, and yes, they are. So now I'm going to look at the numerator and see, can I factor out 2m squared so I can cancel out, right? And so in the numerator, yes, I can factor out a 2, and yes, I can factor out m squared, right? Because we have 3m's up here, we have 2m's in the denominator. So I'm going to factor out a 2m squared, and what does that leave me with? It leaves me with 2m. All right, we could double check by multiplying. We get 4, and then we get m to the 3, right? So it is the correct factoring of the numerator. In the denominator, we have 2m squared times m plus 4, and so we have a factor of 2m in the numerator, or 2m squared in the numerator, and we have a factor of 2m squared in the denominator. So we have 2m over m plus 4. Now we need our excluded values, and so we're going to set the denominator equal to 0 and solve for m, and we get m is equal to negative 4 as our excluded value. So I'm going to put 2m over m plus 4, and then my excluded value is going to be negative 4. Alright, so we're looking at this one here. We have a whole bunch of p's. So we have p to the 3 minus p squared over p squared. So we're looking at the common variables in the first term as there are in the second term, so we can factor them out. And so here we have 3 p's, and here we have 2 p's. So yes, we can factor out 2 p's, or p squared. And so what times p squared is equal to p to the 3? It's going to be p. And what times p squared is equal to negative p squared? It's negative 1. You could double check by distributing out. And then down in the bottom we have p squared. So do we have 2 common factors in the numerator and the denominator? Yes, we have a p squared in the numerator, we have a p squared in the denominator. So what does that leave us with? It's p minus 1. And so what's the excluded value? Well, if we put a denominator here, our denominator would be 1. And so there you can see there's no value for p that will make the denominator equal to 0. So our simplified version is p minus 1, and our excluded value is no empty set, right? There are no excluded values. So we're looking at the next one. We got 15x over 5 minus 10x. So the top has just one term, so we'll leave him alone. The bottom, we have 2 terms, so we're looking at the 5 and then 10. Can we factor anything out? Do we have a greatest common factor between 5 and 10? Yes, we have a 5. So what times 5 is equal to 5 is 1. What times 5 is equal to negative 10x? It's going to be negative 2x. Okay, so now we have 2 factors in the denominator, and up in the top we have 15 and x as our factors. So what we want to do is we want to try canceling out this 5 in the denominator. So we want to ask ourselves, can we pull out a 5 or factor out a 5 from the 15? And yes, we can. So let's do that. So we'll get 5 times 3 times x in the numerator, and denominator will get 5 times parentheses 1 minus 2x parentheses. So do we have common factors in the numerator and the denominator? Yes, we do. We have a 5 and a 5. Right? So we cancel those out, and there's nothing else we can cancel out. Right? We have a factor of 3 in the numerator and an x. We have a factor of this binomial in the denominator, and so none of them are common. So we're going to get 3x in the numerator, and we'll get 1 minus 2x in the denominator. And that's our simplified version. Now, what's the excluded values? Well, we're going to set the denominator equal to 0, so it's 1 minus 2x equals 0. Negative 2x is equal to negative 1, because we're subtracting 1 from both sides. Now we divide by negative 2, and so we get x is equal to 1/2 as our excluded value. So let's go ahead and write our answer over here. It's 3x over 1 minus 2x. And then our excluded value is going to be 1/2. And so, yeah, I'll do the last two in another video.